Welcome to Women Entrepreneurs Radio. I'm your host, Deborah Bailey. And when I started this show in 2008, I was on a mission to promote women-owned businesses and help women succeed by providing resources and valuable tips from other women and men, small business owners. In each interview, my guests speak openly about their triumphs, the scary times, and tough decisions they had to make along the way. Women Entrepreneurs Radio is about showing women how to harness their natural strengths to achieve success on their own terms. Hi everyone, welcome to Women Entrepreneurs Radio with your host Deborah Bailey. I'm really glad you could join me today. And if you're listening to this show on Automatic, you can also, of course, find it on iTunes. It's also on Spotify, iHeartRadio. There's several other platforms it's on right now. So on YouTube. Also, the newer episodes will be posted as well on LinkedIn. So there's different places that you can find out about the show. You can listen in. And also you can go to womenentrepreneursecrets.com. And if you click on podcasts, in the menu bar, then you will also see information about the different platforms the show is on. And also, if you're interested in being a guest, you can download the guidelines from there and find out how you can be a guest on the podcast. So that's another great way for you to get information. And also, if you want to provide any feedback or questions, you can also leave a message there on the blog. Or I also would ask, if you've enjoyed what you've heard, to please leave a review on iTunes, of course, with the algorithms and all kinds of things. It always is great to have more reviews so that more people can find out about the show. So that would be really greatly appreciated if you could take a moment and do that. Also, if you want to know more about me and my books and my book coaching services, you can go to thebaileycoach.com and find out more about me and read various blog posts about publishing and about careers and entrepreneurship. There's a big mix of content on there for you to check out. And also my fiction website is brightstreetbooks.com. And you can find out more about other books that I am writing and working on. So I hope that you will also check that out as well. All right. So we're going to get started today with my guest. And Avani Miriyala is a business coach for freelancers. And she's on a mission to help hustlers ditch their 9-to-5 job, get more clients, work less, and make more money. Avani runs her own UX Strategy Consultancy and is the host of the Six-Figure Freelancer Podcast, which is based out of Austin, Texas. After many years working as a user experience UX designer at various tech companies, she made the leap to start her own consulting company. As her business scaled, things got out of control. She needed to change the story. She set out to find the techniques and systems that her business needed to run like a well-oiled machine. These techniques helped her hit a $10,000 month by month 4 of her business. She realized that so many others could benefit from these tips while launching their own consulting businesses. So welcome to the show, Avani.
Thank you so much for having me, Deb. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, I'm really glad that we could connect, and I really want to hear certainly more about this topic because I think it's one that everyone can benefit from, who is a solopreneur, who is a freelancer, who's out here just trying to figure out how they can grow what they have. So this is a really, really excellent topic. So before we get started on our topic today, which is going to be scaling to multiple six figures, Avani, could you share a little bit more about how you got started? I'm seeing how you decided to make this leap and start your own business, but what really led you to say, I'm really going to jump out here and do this?
It's a great question, Deb. So I have a background in working with tech companies, and I come from a background of user experience design, which is app and website design. And I really love loved what I did. I love this industry a lot. I'm still working with clients in that industry, but I realized that while I was working at an amazing company as an in-house designer, that I was getting stagnant with my growth as a professional and in my skill set. So that's kind of around the time when I realized that I really needed to do something different. I knew I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. So that's when I decided to start making the transformation from working full time to running a business full time. And I started doing that by freelancing. That was the easiest way for me to actually get my foot in the door and jump into something on my own.
So I'm guessing that was maybe a little scary to make that first step.
Yeah, absolutely. It's never easy to leave something that's comfortable and good and brings you a steady paycheck. So, that's why I think a lot of people are scared to leave their jobs to pursue what they really, really want to do, because it's hard to leave that sense of security. But one of the things that I really thought about, and I read a lot of books as I prepared to make this leap. One of the really good books that helped me out is called The Big Leap. So something that I recommend people checking out. It's a great book. And it's by this man named Gay Hendricks. So that's a great book to read. But I realized that at the end of the day, I need to make the leap. I need to make it, and realize that I had everything inside of me to figure things out. And I needed to have that belief. My fiance, well, he was then my boyfriend. Now he's my husband, I guess, not my fiance anymore. But he told me when I was about to leave my job, he mentioned this one thing to me that kind of made it all click. And he said that basically when a bird is sitting on a branch, a bird doesn't trust the branch not to break. The bird simply trusts in its own wings to carry it, to let it fly if the branch breaks. So kind of equates that to, you and us being the bird. Like, we need to trust our skills. We need to trust our intuition, what's within us. We can't just, put the trust in the business or the thing or whatever it is that we want to make the leap to. We have to believe that we have what it takes to figure it out on our own. We're going to be able to solve the problems, think of solutions, and figure things out. We need to believe that. And that's when we're able to make those big, scary leaps.
That's a wonderful analogy. It makes perfect sense, though, I think, when you look at it that way. And for a lot of people who just really aren't sure, and yet they know that they want to do something different, it can be a stuck place between really desiring something new, but then being so afraid of what could happen, because of course you have all these scenarios in your head that may never happen, but they're there before you actually take the step. So I think that's a perfect way to look at it. So, you spoke about, at least in your intro, about systems. So, as far as you're concerned, your experience, why are they so important?
Yeah. So systems are important to any business, especially if you want to grow it. So a lot of times when we're running businesses, we're solopreneurs in the beginning. We're just doing it all by ourselves. We're, the person who's wearing many, many hats, and everything falls on us. But the thing is, the moment you grow to a point where you can't handle it on your own and you need to bring in a team member, that's when, honestly, even before that, that's when a system needs to be in place, because they don't necessarily know what's in your head and understand what you're doing or why you're doing it in order to execute on something the same way you are executing on something. So that's one thing. But the other thing is, if you don't have systems or even automations or just a process in place, like a standard operating procedure, if you don't have that in place, you're doing too much work. You're doing extra work, because there are some things we're doing again and again in our business. For example, I bring in clients, I service them, we provide services to them. When I onboard a client, I'm doing a lot of the same things again and again in my business. So instead of just, manually writing out the email with next steps, or, figuring out where in the process they should be or where they should go to, I would rather set up a system in a project management tool or something else where I have simple snippets that I can write out in an email, and it auto-populates the whole email that I need to write, rather than typing out an entire email, or rather than wondering, like, what is the timeline going to be? If I have a system or a procedure to create a timeline for a client that's going to make things simple and faster. So kind of the reason I think systems are so important is because you're going to do something more than once in many cases. And if you're going to do it more than once, you need to create a process around it for yourself to make things easier for you to save time, but also as you scale and give things off to other people.
Well, that makes perfect sense, because then a lot of times I think the reason people often don't outsource their work is because they really feel intimidated about having to sit down now and explain to someone else what they have to do, because they probably have never captured it.
Right.
You know, in a way that says, well, this is how we do things. It's like, okay, now I have to explain it. And then I think a lot of times people end up going, well, it's easier just for me to do it. So,
yeah.
You know,
the thing with that is, if you keep saying it's easier just for me to do it, you're stopping yourself from the growth, because every time you take on a task that someone else can be doing, you're exchanging a high value task that only you can do for a low value task, assuming it's a lower value task that someone else can do. So it's almost a question of how much is your time worth, and how much is the other thing that you were going to be doing worth to you.
Yes, I think that makes perfect sense. And that's probably something a lot of people don't look at it that way. And I think particularly women entrepreneurs, because a lot of times women are so used to multitasking and being responsible for so many things at once that they may not see that in this case, that's not something that's really helping you to do. You know, right. It's not something that what you may do in your life or what you're used to doing in your life, it may be not the right way to do your business. So you need to find a more efficient way to do that.
Absolutely.
Definitely. You know, what is your strategies for making the leaps that you have made in your business?
So yeah, that's a great question. So I've worked on a couple different things in order to make sure that my time is valuable. One of the things, like I mentioned earlier, is I started hiring for tasks that I know I didn't need to be doing and other people could be doing. So I started outsourcing some things after I, created these systems for myself and really set up a project management tool, which I highly recommend. If you don't have one, it's really important to get one. So your to-do list can't be a piece of paper. If you're going to run a business that's going to withstand the test of time, we need to have like a digital system in place to manage all the tasks. So once you have that, it's a matter of, okay, are there things you're doing that somebody else could do so that you can open up your time? If yes, I think the next thing is to start hiring and getting people on board so that you can free up your time to work on the highest value things in your business, whether that be, strategic, strategy, content, sales, whatever those things are for your specific business. Those are the things that you need to be setting your time in if that's where the value in the dollars is coming from. So making sure that you're triaging your time and handing tasks off to other people in order to grow is super important. And then another thing to do is, I typically do this. I think it's very valuable. I track my time every day and where my time is going for my business. So I'm tracking my time for, if I'm doing an admin task, if I'm talking to a client, if I'm talking to another client, a team member, because at the end of the week, I can then look at my analytics for where did my time go. I use a tool called Toggle. It's free, TOGGL.com. And after that, I can look at it and I can look, okay, I spent 20 hours on this one thing and that didn't even produce me money this week. Like, maybe it was, I was tweaking my website and I spent 20 hours tweaking my website, but I spent 2 hours talking to a potential client and closed a new deal. So there's kind of a mismatch there, because the new deal, maybe that was a couple $1,000s or more, but I didn't make any money on these 20 hours that I spent tweaking my website. And the question is there, like, am I using my time wisely? So we use these analytics. If we can get these analytics, we can use them in a very productive way to look at our time. Where is our time going? Is it actually producing value? Is it actually producing the ROI that we really want? Because I don't know about you, Deb, but I didn't leave my job or the thing I was doing before. I didn't start a business in order to simply waste my time away for $10 or $0 an hour. Like we came here to do something impactful for ourselves and for the world. So I think these are really important strategies to keep in mind in order to do that.
Exactly. And it sounds as though that's a starting point for a lot of people who want to really be more efficient and see how they can, I guess, make their businesses run better, is to really start tracking their time when they get, started on this process.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's always the way to go, because there's a lot of times that you're doing things that you don't even realize how much time it takes. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a scary trap to fall into.
Yeah, especially when you're dealing with social media and things like that. And it's like you figure, well, I'm just going to be on here for a few minutes, and you look up and like hours have passed and you haven't really accomplished very much. So yeah, I think it's something that a lot of people fall into, obviously. But for the the solopreneur, the person who really is doing a lot of it themselves to start out with, it really can be very hurtful to you making the money that you want to make. So how much does mindset go into this? Because I think we have to have the practical, but we also have to have how we're looking at things as well. So what would you say about that?
So mindset, I think, is everything, to be honest. If we're not ready mentally to be where we need to do the things we need to do to be where we want to be in business, in life, then we're really missing the key factor, the foundation of it all. Because if we aren't, everything is created in our minds before it's created in the real world, in the physical reality. So if we're not ready mentally, like we're not the person we need to be in order to have a 6-figure business, in order to have a multiple 6-figure business, then it's just not going to happen. Because it's just like if you look at people who win the lottery, they win millions of dollars. They aren't the person who is mentally ready to be a millionaire. They haven't, they don't necessarily understand how to manage money in most of the cases. They don't understand those things. So that's why they often squander it away, and it suddenly disappears after a few years because they've spent it. They don't understand how to manage it because they haven't become that person mentally who is a millionaire. So that same thing can be applied here to business. If you want to have a humming business, like a well-oiled machine that produces multiple 6 figures for you every year, then you need to step into the mind of the version of you that is already running that multiple 6-figure business. So that means many things. That means getting a coach or a mentor that's been there before you and has done what they've done. Because I think too often we try to figure it out ourselves, but it's too hard to do by yourself, and you might as well bash your head into a brick wall. So I highly recommend getting a mentor or coach. The second thing is investing into yourself in terms of spending time on your personal development. If you are someone who wants to grow a skill set, or even just grow from a leadership perspective, from a mental perspective, like a mindset perspective, and really get into getting those mindset keys for you to be able to level up mentally. I often read books, I listen to podcasts, I attend events. All of these things are going to help you get into the right mind space you need to be in to transcend into that next version of you. So those are the things that are going to help you get to where you want to be, so then your business will follow. Your mind is always the thing that goes first, then your business will follow. And that's one of the most important things, in my opinion. I talk about it a lot in my courses, on my podcast. Mindset is kind of where it all begins. And we can do that in so many different ways, but I think just baby steps at first, finding a coach or a mentor, listening to a few podcasts that you really like that are productive to your business, to your project, whatever you're working on right now. And then maybe a few books. The Big Leap is a great one to start with, like I mentioned earlier. So that's kind of what I have to share with you on mindset, because I think this is where it all begins. If you listen to nothing else on the podcast episode and just listen to this last point, I think you're going to win.
Yes, I think it's very important, obviously, and that's something that people use in various ways, not just business, but in various other things that they do that help them to line up with their vision, whatever that is, for success. But, you were talking before about having the mindset, and for people, particularly when they may hit the lotto and they're not really mentally prepared to be who that person is, who has that money, or is living that kind of way. And that's a very interesting point. I think a lot of times it gets missed when people talk about making more money and growing a business. But, in your experience, when you found that your techniques were really working and you hit that, $10,000 a month, I mean, were you surprised at that point, or were you just like, okay, I knew that this was going to come about because of the changes that I'd implemented?
It's never going to be a surprise. I think you're going to know it's coming because you're working at it. And I think you mentally need to make the decision first. And then it's not just the decision, but of course we have to do the work. The strategies need to follow. And, when you're working to it, you're believing it, you're becoming that person who's going to have that thing. You're going to be able to do the work. And then when it happens, it's going to be like, oh yeah, of course it happened. It makes total sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's true. It's not really coming out of nowhere because you've been putting the work in to get to that point.
Absolutely.
Right. And that, from what you're saying, it sounds like you have a lot of things in place, courses and things like that. So what are some of the things that you offer, that you may want to share?
Would love to share that. So I have a podcast as well. It's the Six Figure Freelancer Podcast. You can search for it on iTunes, on Stitcher, and Spotify, and listen to me over there. I have episodes that come out twice a week over there. I also have a free roadmap for anyone that really wants to attract their dream clients. This is called the Client Magnet Roadmap, and it's basically the framework that I've used to go from 0 to 6-figure years to multiple 6-figure years. So, and I'm talking about profitable 6-figure years. I am not in the business of, if I want to make $100,000, I'll spend $90,000. That's not the kind of business I want to build because I want to see the fruit of my labor. So this is a framework that I'm sharing with all of you to know exactly what I did so you can copy and paste the framework that I used. And to grab it, you can go to avanimiriyala.com/free, Free, and I'll just spell my website, first name, last name to you as well. It's AvaniMiriyala.com/free. So you can get it. It's a downloadable PDF, lots of goodies in there, and I think you'll really enjoy it.
Oh, that's perfect. I'm so glad you shared that. Yeah, certainly. I'm going to put that in the show notes as well, everyone. So that will be there for you to click on and to check out, because I think that would be a perfect thing for you to use for your own business, and also definitely the podcast. Make sure you check that out as well, because there's a lot you can learn. And as you were saying, Avani, people really have to hear from those people who have gone ahead of them and who are doing these things, and that you can actually learn from, and you really have, real results, as opposed to a lot of smoke and mirrors that are out there right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're here for real results. We're doing real work to get real results.
Right. It's not, just a lot of the things out there that I'm sure people see that, don't always line up with what has to be done, or kind of downplay what work and commitment you're going to have to make. So also, Avani, you shared your website, or any social media or anything that you want to share also that people can check you out?
Yeah. So you can follow me on Instagram at Avani Miriyala, and I'm hanging out over there a lot on Instagram stories. Definitely message me on direct messages, and we can hang out and talk more over there.
And I'll also ask because I know social media has definitely changed the landscape, I guess, over the past decade for the freelancer, for the person who, want to start their own business and doesn't have like gigantic amounts of capital out there, where before people really had to make big investments to try to reach a lot of people now. That has completely changed. So from your point of view, also since you're on Instagram, for instance, what are ways do you think that people can engage if they're on Instagram, for instance?
Yeah, I think you need to get clear on why you're on Instagram. I think there's a misconception that you can get, if in some cases you can get lots of clients on Instagram, but if you're just starting out, I think it can be challenging. You can use it as a tool to build relationships for sure. And that's what I've done. So after I after I started my business, like a year and a half in, that's when I started getting clients via Instagram because I was posting stories regularly, sharing what I do, the behind the scenes, and building relationships on Instagram stories. And that's what worked for me, but it could be different. What works for you or your audience could be different. So my recommendation is to choose one part of Instagram, whether it be posts or stories or IGTV, whatever you think works for your industry and the way your business works. And that should be like your regular, it could be another social media too. It just depends on your industry. And that should be like, where you spend your time if you're spending your time anywhere. And I don't think you have to be on social media to have, you don't have to be an engaged person with thousands of followers to have a really good business. If you look at my Instagram, I think I have maybe 1,700 followers and I still have a multiple six-figure business. And that just goes to show that that's not necessarily where all the revenue comes from.
Right.
Social media is a great tool. I think it's wonderful for connection, for meeting people. I've met a lot of people and now I get clients from there. But my point here is don't get hung up on it in the beginning. If you're just getting clients, there are other avenues, other ways to build your business and scale as well. And I think it's a great tool for building relationships. That's primarily what I use it for, like making friends, building relationships, learning from other people, sharing what I'm learning as well. It's like a really great way to have a little conversation on a day-to-day basis with my audience. And I really love that part of it.
So Avani, this is really, really a fantastic conversation because I think these are things that people can really put into action and find out how they can build what they have. And it's not something that is so, let's say, overwhelming that the freelancer who really wants to build success can't start to adapt these things. So I see a lot about user experience designers. How would you define what you do?
Yeah, user experience design is very interesting. It's the study of people creating empathy with your end users in whatever product or service you're creating. I focus mostly on digital products like technology products, so apps and websites, and we really understand the user's story, their journey. Why are they using this app? What are their needs during the usage of the app? What are their pain points? How can we solve their problems better? Iterating, helping companies like tech companies iterate on their products is what we do as a user experience design team.
That's a great explanation because I see it. Of course, you see it everywhere, and you're like, okay, exactly what is this about?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a newer field, newer profession. I would say the last 2 decades, it's become much more prevalent, but it's a really great field to be in. I love it.
That's fantastic.
Definitely.
So, Avani, this, as I said, has been a wonderful conversation and really insightful, really important. So, do you have any final thoughts before we wrap up?
No, I think it's been a wonderful chat. I really appreciate all of your questions, Deb. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. As I said, I'm really glad you come on and share your experience, really share your actions that you took and strategies. And that's really helpful for people listening because that's always so important to me that the listeners can take something away from this that they can use right away and grow from. And of course, offering, your free download is also just perfect because then they can really take that away as well and, start to implement. So thank you so much for joining me, Avani. I really appreciate it. And, really glad to have you as a guest.
Thank you, Deb. Really appreciate it.
All right, everyone. So this was another wonderful episode. Please share this with your friends, share it on social media. Let everybody know to check this episode out. And as I said, I will have the link to the download in the show notes. You can go and check that out as well. And definitely learn from Avani's experience and see other offerings that she has and see how you can also build your business up and really take it to the next level. So once again, it's been Women Entrepreneurs Radio with your host, Deborah Bailey. Thank you so much for joining me, and we will see you again next time. Bye. Thanks for joining us. You can also join in the conversation on Facebook.com/Women Entrepreneurs and on the website, WomenEntrepreneursSecrets.com. And don't forget to listen in on dvcoach.podomatic.com and on iTunes.